G'day, and this is Mandingo's video about halftones. This is not an actual tutorial per se, but this should give you a little insight as to why I don't like Adobe's color halftone filter, and just a peek into sort of the technique that I use in some of my work. Here's a good example: the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man versus the Ghostbusters. As you can see, there are tons of halftones everywhere. I love halftones. Gives it a really cool vibe, I feel, something you don't see very often, but is definitely prevalent in t-shirt design and printing. Now, one of the reasons why I like using halftones is it gives it a nice texture. But this is one of the main reasons why I do not like Photoshop's halftone filter. So here you go. Looks like a halftone, but isn't quite authentic. And I know this is a little bit nitpicky, but as you can see from the filter here, it creates perfect circles, ranging from like a dark collection to very sparse. It's to give it that effect that it's fading away. And this is what it looks like when you do halftone the authentic way, or the Mandingo way, if you will. I like to keep the output exactly the same. This is to keep your artwork to size. You don't want to resize it because this will just create problems later. And frequency can be a little intimidating for newbies because it's sort of counterintuitive. You don't want, the lower the number, the bigger the dots. So normally halftone screens go 30 to 45 lines per inch, and that's basically what they talk about is like the line of dots in a row. Angle, generally you don't really need to worry about it unless you're into the nitty-gritty of screen printing, and that's, you can find all sorts of tutorials about stuff like that. I like to use 30, just a random number, and I like to exaggerate the halftone dot. So here we go. And already you can kind of see the difference between the two. And it's most apparent where the sort of white and black dots converge. You can see that they kind of melt together. And that's one of the main reasons why I don't really like this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this per se, but I just find that this gives it more of a level of authenticity. Maybe I'm a snob. I don't know. But this is kind of the vibe that I like. I love those halftone dots. So, how do you do this for your artwork? Well, generally speaking, it gets a little involved at this point. So, what you want to do is have your artwork already. So let's say you've got a cartoon character looking kind of flat, and you want to give him a little bit of dimension. So you bring your artwork into Photoshop, or you make it in Photoshop, or you scan it in, or bring it in for Illustrator, however you want to do it. Make sure it's a good resolution. I tend to work a little bit higher. Some people will tell you to work at 300. I work at 400 just to have that a little bit of flexibility. Just say if I want to print it on a large format, like a poster, whatever. So I create a separate layer, and basically what I do is I brush in with a light color. Now, technically I'm shading here, even though it's a light color. And you'll see why I use white. Generally speaking, you're kind of creating a mask, and you're going to flood this in with color later on. Oops. Shading. So, create a black background for that. Merge those layers together, and I cut them. So we still have our shading layer, our artwork layer. We definitely want to keep those separated. Create a new document, paste in your layer that you just cut, flatten it, and reduce it down to grayscale, and then bitmap. Now, Like I said, you want to leave this at default because if you change this, the artwork here is going to resize, and it's going to be problematic when you bring this back into your work document. So leave it at default. Um, Halftone screen is important. So this is where you can select your different shapes. Now you can do all sorts of cool and interesting things. You don't have to use round. You can do diamond, ellipse, line, square, cross, whatever. All work equally well. Try it out. Experiment. You can come up with some really cool effects that way. I like to do exaggerated halftones, so I like to leave the frequency low. And through process of elimination, you kind of find your way through. There's no set formula. So I created that, cut the result, and what you're going to do is you're going to paste it into your alpha channel, in your channels, brand new alpha channel. So on the Mac, you hit Command, click on the artwork icon, creates a selection. So what this is going to do is we're going to jump back into our old shading layer, and we're going to fill it with a color. We'll pick dark blue. Now, as you can see, color is outside of the artwork, so there's two ways you can get around that. The easiest way is to group it with your lower layer. Gets the job done. It's efficient, it's quick, you don't get a lot of time, whatever, on your hands. You want to get her done. Or another way that you can do it is select the transparency of your artwork layer, inverse it, and then just clear out the extraneous color that you don't need. So this is kind of what I did with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Separate layers for each color. I had one for red, one for blue, so on. And like I said, it's not an elegant solution, but sometimes, the best effect isn't always the easiest. So there it is. I hope you got a little bit out of this, and yeah, see you later.